Come everyone, pull up a carpet. Let me tell you a story about wanting to belong, knowing you were meant for something more, and meeting your destiny with cunning and charm. Will this change you, or reveal the diamond you already were? In 1992, at a ripe age of 8 years old, Nightmare Impact enters the theater to watch his first Disney motion picture. Now, I can't give you my first impressions of watching Aladdin for the first times. I, without a shadow of a doubt, could tell you that Aladdin was, and still is, my favorite Disney animated movie. Also, Disney's depiction of Aladdin is one of the characters that has influenced me and helped me shape my views, morality, and remembering and trying to do the right thing, even when, no one's looking. Cheesy, maybe. But I watch other YouTubers wax philosophical about how SpongeBob is secretly about gentrification. I'm looking at you, Sandy Cheeks, but I digress. 1992, the year of Sister Act, Crystal Pepsi, and at time Bill Clinton tricked the whole community with one jazz performance. This is Capcom's Aladdin for the Super Nintendo. Aladdin for the Super Nintendo was released in November of 1993, a whole year later after the hit animated movie. But why? Let me explain. See, the execs at Disney licensed two companies to produce two versions of Aladdin for Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo. Sega would get a version of Aladdin made by Virgin Games, and an SNES version created by Capcom. Both were being produced at the same time, but had no communications for obvious reasons, which led to Capcom making the more kid-friendly version, more in common with Mario-type platforming, no real weapons besides apples. Virgin Games, however, didn't get that memo, and included a sword, which came from the fact that Virgin Games envisioned more of a swashbuckling pirate type. I personally think it's a matter of your opinion and play type. Both games excel at platforming. Later I will go into further explanation and my opinions on which is superior. Capcom's Aladdin was released to amazing reviews, many publications raving on its detail to the story, and how the graphics, animation, and music are all outstanding. The only real negatives I could see were that Capcom's Aladdin is a little bit on the easy side, but that might explain why the game was financially successful. It was very accessible to casuals, besides being a good game obviously. Alright, story time. Since the game follows the movie very closely with actual scenes told through picture stills, I won't insult your intelligence and just recite the movie. I will, however, give you the plot. Aladdin is a young, charismatic, and honest thief, a real oxymoron, but still he has a heart of gold. Aladdin, while in the market doing his daily job of stealing apples, meets a mysterious woman. They have an intense couple of hours before being captured and imprisoned for kidnapping the princess, which he didn't know at the time. Aladdin, while waiting to be executed, is approached by an old weary man who offers Aladdin a deal: retrieve the lamp for him in the Cave of Wonders. Well, wasn't the most complicated plot, but it worked for us kids back in '92. Gameplay is a mixture of traditional platforming and auto side-scrolling at times. As Aladdin, you would traverse about 7 stages from Agrabah to the Cave of Wonders. Most stages consist of 2 parts, sometimes 3, which isn't consistent. Aladdin's fast, agile, and maneuvers around each stage with ease. You shouldn't struggle. In fact, the controls feel loose and forgiving. Many times I would jump and glide through the majority of the stage. I would suggest not doing so, because the stage is littered with gems, scarabs, chests, and small details easily recognizable from the Aladdin movie. Collecting 100 green gems gets you extra lives and points, while red gemstones can also improve your score, but they also give you an alternate ending at the end of the game, which shows you flying at the screen. Hopefully it wasn't a plane. Hopefully it wasn't a genie. The treasure box scarabs can be very valuable if you're lucky. Let me explain. Scarabs, after collected and once the stage is completed, give a minigame in which you can gain continues, extra lives, hearts, which increases how many times Aladdin can be hit. In all honesty, the scarabs aren't really a necessity since it's random. It's nice to get more hearts, but if you random spin lands on continues, which is most likely going to happen, having lots of continues is useful in harder games, but since Aladdin is on the easy side, you never use them. The gameplay turns into a side-scroller on certain stages, which are fun and a great way to mix things up, but there are too few to matter. The main issue with the gameplay is that unless you care about gems, which are not a necessity, you probably skip through them stage pretty fast. The graphics are sharp enough, but nowhere as detailed as other top tier games. The backgrounds, in my opinion, stand out graphically. They have details and sometimes moving parts. Even Abu will be in the background getting into shenanigans. The stages are varied. You will visit many locations, but most will feel familiar if you've watched Aladdin already. I really enjoyed what they did with the genie stage. I wish the rest of the game had been created with platforms and the way they maneuver through the stage. Later stages lack imagination, which I believe makes this a product of crunch monster. Let me explain. A lot of times in game development, studios get into panic mode near the end of the video game creation, usually due to corporate deadlines. In response, studio teams go into crunch time, which means longer hours, more stressful coding testing, and less care for creativity, and more get the job done on time. You keep the bonuses for the investors in the suits. Quality control and fun ideas can change, which is why later games sometimes lack the creativity. I feel like this happened in Aladdin. The game lacks many bosses, and a total of one, maybe 1.5. That's not many boss fights. Also, stage is just in, with no real emphasis on anything, making it feel like it's kind of empty experience. Aladdin fighting leaves much to be desired. I mean, in comparison to Virgin's Aladdin, Capcom brought an apple to a sword fight. Jumping on enemies' heads in Mario somehow never gets boring, but here in a Capcom's Aladdin, it becomes easier and more useful to just avoid enemies. Why bother? Quicker to just jump and run. Music and sound are adequate. The music is, well, if you've seen the movie, you know the songs. I will never say that it's bad, but if you watch Aladdin's music, you know it's good, but it's not like I'm gonna be like, oh man, let me go out and go get that Aladdin soundtrack. Now watch it being one of the highest selling soundtracks with me putting my foot in my mouth. But anyway, in conclusion, Capcom's Aladdin is special to me. I never owned the game as a youngin', but my older sister, who was 30 years older than me, which is why 2 of her 3 children are actually older than me. Yeah, try being an older uncle to a 20-year-old nephew. The point is, on some weekends, I got to go to my sister's house, and we rent a game, maybe a movie, and I can vividly remember one weekend we rented Capcom's Aladdin and Surf Ninjas. Me and my older nephews had so much fun memories. I can only see the good, and before I criticize SNES's Aladdin, I gotta appreciate the moments I got, to share with my older nephews, and Surf Ninjas also, and Moto Surf!
Moto Surf!
Moto Surf!
Moto Surf!
Capcom's Aladdin is a time capsule of nostalgia and baby's first platforming. It's training wheels and not very challenging, and you'll find yourself trying to make things a little difficult. I feel this really hampers replay value because there's just not much to the game. Don't get me wrong, it's still very visually interesting at points, but nowhere as detailed as other SNES games of the time. The platforming doesn't do enough to keep your attention. With the lack of attack options, you usually end up avoiding enemies and moving right as fast as possible. The gemstones could have been interesting, but it's not worth the slight differences in the ending. Stages are a mixed bag. They start so strong and are generally fun and different, but once you get past Genie's stage, it loses its steam. I just feel that if the studio had more time, maybe they could put the same creativity in the later stages. This brings us back to Virgin's Aladdin, which was released 1 month before Capcom's Aladdin. I can see both games rushing and cutting corners to meet the similar launch dates. If you wanted to know which Aladdin is best, well, I'm here to tell you that consensus says Virgin's Aladdin is better. I could go into detail why, but that's a whole nother review. Maybe one day. I will say I enjoy Capcom's Aladdin, but again, I'm biased. I always felt the gameplay was fun, but what made me come back to this game years later was a feeling I had with my family. Older copies are available everywhere and are very cheap. I would only suggest buying this game if you want to play a light, challenging platformer. You can find a plethora of superior platformers. Older copies are available everywhere, so don't let anyone price gouge you for this game. Your fun will vary though, so be very, very aware of that. Anyway, on to the fun part. Show me the numbers. For graphics, we have 6 out of 10. For sound, 5 out of 10. Music, another 5 out of 10. Gameplay, 7 out of 10. And a story, 6 out of 10. For a score of 29, which means Lion King's the best.
Cat knows Lion King is the best.
Aladdin's better. Aladdin is perfectly fine and still very fun to play. It just doesn't have many in-game goals or mechanics for replay value. I personally love this game and have fond memories. I don't expect you to have the same attachment. I will say skip Aladdin. Play Donkey Kong Country, Super Mario World, Mega Man X. Hell, play Lion King the game, in which is a superior platformer and harder experience. SNES Aladdin is perfect if you have a young child and they're looking for a light challenge. Before I leave you with the quote of the day, I want to say thank you to everyone who commented on the last video. You know, my game reviews taking a little longer than I would expect, but you know, I'm still kind of new to this, and I want to just say thank you. And I appreciate the comments, I appreciate the likes and all that stuff. And I will be back moving a lot faster, bringing you more game reviews. So again, I want to say thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, now it's time for the quote of the day. You see, when you don't got money, you want money. But then when you get money, you don't want to lose it. I'll see you next video. Take care. Peace.